Good evening. Thank you all for joining us and welcome to the open session for the Franklin-McKinley School District Board of Education meeting. We will start with item 3, general matters. And I will now go to item 3.01, the land acknowledgement statement, which I will read now. We acknowledge that the Franklin-McKinley School District and our schools are located in the Muwekma Ohlone Nation, the sovereign nation and original people of the skies, land, and waters where we learn and work. The Muwekma Ohlone people are the stewards of these lands and of the teaching and learning that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and the people who share it. May our daily lives and work, learning, teaching, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Muwekma Ohlone for their community and these lands. We will now go to item 3.02, the flag salute, and it is really exciting. We are honored to have our Hellier Color Guard here with us this evening. So thank you again for being here.
Good evening. My name is Ella. I'm a 6th grader at Hellier School. We would like to welcome you. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand up for the flag salute? Color Guard, advance. Color Guard, prepare to post the colors. Would you please join me in the flag salute? Ready? Salute. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for all which it stands, one nation under God, invisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color Guard, please post the colors. Color Guard dismissed. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. I would like to have the Hellier, wait. I would like to have the Hellier Color Guard introduce themselves and any parent or relatives who came with them. Hello, my name is Ella. I'm a 6th grader at Hellier School, and I'd like to thank my parents for driving me here.
Hello, my name is Mary Jane. I'm a 6th grader at Hellier, and I would like to thank my parents for driving me here.
Hello, my name is Holly Vo. I'm a 5th grader at Hellier, and I'd like to thank my parents for driving me here.
Hello, my name is Samantha Lopez, and I am a 5th grader at elementary, and I'd like to thank my mom for driving me here.
Hello, my name is Alfonso Torres, and I'm a 5th grader in Hellier, and I'd like to thank my parents for bringing me here.
Hello, my name is Nalea. I'm a 6th grader. I'd like to thank my parents for driving me here. Hello, my name's Amanda. I'm a 6th grader at Hellier School, and I'd like to thank my parents for driving me here.
Hi, my name is Alexandria Torres, and I am a 5th grader at Hellier Elementary, and I'd like to thank my mom for bringing me here.
Hi, my name is Ho Pham, and Hi, my name is Ho Pham. I'm a 5th grader in Hellier, and I thank my parents for bringing me here.
We give another round of applause for our Hellier Color Guard. We do have, yes. I was gonna say, we'll wait till then. I was going to say we have another special recognition, but hopefully the live stream will also be able to see our special recognition. We will now go to item 3.03, approve, disapprove additions to the agenda. Board members? Hearing none, we will go to item 3.04, approve, disapprove order of the agenda. Hearing none, we will go to item 3.05, report of action taken in closed session. Superintendent Cruz.
Yes, thank you. The board unanimously approved the closed session minutes for September 14, 2021. There are no other actions to report.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. We will now go to item 4, recognition. Item 4.01, the recognition of Eastside Union High School District Board President, Van Le, who's here with us today. Thank you. So.
Yes, we would like to recognize the support that Trustee Van Le has provided to Franklin-McKinley students and families over the years, a staunch supporter of youth and her volunteer time in ensuring that we have the opportunity within our community to celebrate the the Harvest Festival, the Moon Festival that takes place. And she makes sure that we have the opportunity to have our families engage in such a tradition within the Vietnamese community. And so for those reasons and many others, we wanted to have the opportunity to recognize you for all your hard work and supporting our families within Franklin-McKinley.
I have a short statement that I'll start out with. Good evening, everyone. We would like to acknowledge Van Le for being the individual most responsible for the Children's Moon Festival, which took place this past Saturday at Yerba Buena High School. This was a day of pride for the Vietnamese community and all who attended the festival. This happened to be the 30th Children's Moon Festival being celebrated, so it was a very special occasion. Many thanks to all the individuals who participated and put in their hard work to make this a successful festival. In recognition of this special event, the Franklin-McKinley School Board would like to present the Certificate of Appreciation to founder Van Le for her tireless work in bringing this festival to fruition. Congratulations, Van, and keep up the great work.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Board President, Memona Bota, and Trustee George Sanchez, as well as Trustee Rudy Rodriguez, Tantran, and Manuel Martinez. I'm so happy that we organized this festival for our community, especially Eastside. And the Feeder District is one of the districts that I'm really want to be included because, we want to open up for our, students as well as the community to come. And we do have a booth, hopefully that the community stop by. And I know that I know it's a short time because when you guys have, we have the reopening school just about a month ago, and the student did not have chance to practice as much, but I really treasure the relationship, and the trust among the community as well as different ethnic group. And hopefully I already passed my torch to the younger generation. So I can do another, maybe another mission in life. But I got the feedback from the community as well as a student, and they really love it because, it's such an event that people want to gather and the community come over. And, I'm looking forward to have a dual immerse program from Franklin-McKinley. Unfortunately, we did not gather this year. And I told the younger generation at Eastside Union High School District, maybe we're gonna organize the TED Festival. And that time, the Dual Immerse program from Franklin-McKinley will join us, coming up in February. So I think it's something that's very dear to my heart. And I really want to say that I could not do alone. Everyone has contributed to make it, this event successful. And we did raise over 12,000 for the McKinney Vento on East Side. So that's one of the really dear to my heart. The event, not just only for the community, but we did provide, the financial for the homeless student McKinney Vento, and appreciate that on behalf of the organizing committee. And I wish everyone stay healthy, stay safe, and looking forward to have the relationship and continue the building the trust among the community as well as educator. And we see you at TED Festival. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I want to say just a couple of quick words. Superintendent mentioned here McKinney Vento in his little write-up for this event. As you remember, Patricia Martinez Roach and of course Von Lay started the McKinney Vento dinner, and it, started out on a small scale. Now it's a little bit bigger, and it really benefits all the many families. Now, not all the families, impossible, because of foster youth is a big group out there. But we try to get all the foster youth McKinney Vento kids there to the dinner every Christmas, and the kids really appreciate it. And I had some in my school that were invited. So they would say, well, why was I invited, to this, so I just told them, well, there's a lot of families in East Side, in all the schools. So we picked, and you got the award to go there to the dinner, and that there's no shame, you're gonna have a great time, and that's what it's been. It's been a great time. The kids get certificates from many organizations like Target. It really helps us, so. Again, I think it's something that will be continued on. And again, in large part to Patricia Martinez Roach and of course, Von Lay, who's still doing it now, All right.
That's amazing. And this is our 10th anniversary. Remember, George? Yeah, when I first started at the board trustee of Eastside 2010. And after 1 year, we talked to George and I said, we're going to have to look after for those kids in McKinney Vento, the most vulnerable group. And I know Patricia Rose and we said, all right, let's move on to this project. And this is the 10th anniversary. And we have about 250 McKinney Vento homeless students. And I think it's whatever we bring it back and we just give them the gift certificate. And I know last year, we didn't do it last 2 years because of COVID-19, but the prior year that we did the wish list for those students. And some of them wrote an essay relating to why did they want the extra money, because what we say that if we can fundraise and many more money, then we provide extra for the kid beside the gift certificate. So last year, 2 years ago, we have about 20 students from McKinney Vento group receive iPad, receive a computer, and 2 of them received bicycle, and one of them that requests $1,000 to put in together with her part-time job so she can go to work and go to school. So those things is really amazing, the story. And I'm really amazing for those girls tonight, a college girl, that really step up and really proud, to have a flag ceremony. And, and I think this is a wonderful start. So thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you very
George.
much.
All right.
Thank you so much. We will now go on to item 5, oral communications. And members of the public may address the board on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or agenda items. Members of the public may also address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with Board Bylaw 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. No action can be taken on any agenda items at this time. Questions may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. We're at item 5.01, and we have Scott Schulemson.
Good evening, trustees. I want to first comment on the ongoing challenges regarding COVID. Obviously, teaching during a pandemic is very challenging, and I know the district has tried to be responsive to the health and safety needs of all employees, and I think we continue as a district to get closer and closer to meeting that mark. I still do find instances where there's people confused, making decisions that aren't in alignment with the protocols of the county and the district. These instances are becoming fewer and fewer as the weeks go by, but I don't think we're quite there yet, unfortunately. There's, a lot of secretaries and principals and sites that are having a lot of things on their plate and are having to juggle these new procedures and protocols along with everything else going on this year. And on top of the fact that these protocols change week to week and month to month in terms of what the county has authorized. So it's a lot on everyone's plate. And I know there's good faith efforts being made. And I think we're almost there, but I think it should also be noted that we're not quite there yet in terms of being in consistent 100% alignment with this. Separately, I just want to speak in favor of this increase to substitute teaching wages that's going to come up under action items later. This is not going to suddenly just solve the problem, unfortunately. We have a well-known labor shortage in our region and our country as a whole right now, but it's a step in the right direction because really the district just can't function without substitute teachers. And this lack is really throwing a huge wrench in the gears, not only for teachers who are sick with COVID and other related sicknesses, but also in terms of the district being able to have a release for teachers and other staff who have all sorts of important tasks to do. So I think this is a step in the right direction. I think we're going to be extremely competitive with salary for substitute teachers once this is approved. And so I look forward to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Do you have any other oral communications at this time? Right, we will go to item 6, information, discussion, and/or action items. 6.01, the College in My Future Program Memorandum of Understanding with Excite Foundation. Superintendent Cruz?
Yes, thank you. And I do have John Hogan, who is on the Zoom call. They will also be available to answer questions and provide some clarity to the board. So we've been working closely with Excite Credit Union, Excite Foundation to start this program within Franklin-McKinley. It would be the first one within the Eastside Alliance. And what this is about is trying to create a pathway for students to make college a reality for them. And we know the research shows that if a student in a family have a savings account or college savings account even at least $500, that their likelihood of going to college increases tremendously. And so we're excited to be the first district and in providing an automatic enrollment of our kinder students into a college savings account. This would be the first step in our ability to work with Excite Foundation to be able to provide the data, the information of all of our kinder students so that they could be automatically enrolled in a college savings account. Parents would have the option of opting out. If they truly do not want to be part of this, they can opt out. Otherwise, that they would, their children would be having an account that then parents could have matching funds in that way. So I invite John to, if you could unmute yourself, and if you want to turn on your camera, and offer any additional information that the board could, and then we'll ask questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Superintendent Cruz. It's indicating that my videos, the administrator turned it off. So if you'd like to see me, feel free to turn it on. There we go. And, yeah, so I'm John Hogan, and I'm here tonight representing both Excite Credit Union and Excite Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, and are two of the partners in this pilot that we're working on. I'm sorry that I can't be here with you in person tonight, but I thank the superintendent and the board for considering this opportunity for what we call the College in My Future program. We're excited to bring the program. We know that it fits the mission of the school district to make sure that all 8th grade students are ready for a college prep curriculum, and further for the high school district, that students graduate ready for college and career. The superintendent, mentioned the data, which is really underpins why we're doing this. There's national data that shows that students with a college savings account have a 3 times higher likelihood of attending and completing college. We know it's not just the $500. It's all about the mindset starting earlier with the youngest students. And that's why we're doing this. The program that we've designed together is really following best practices of a movement around the country. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Work of Prosperity Now, but they track these programs. There's over 900,000 students across the country that are now enrolled in these children's savings programs using the same opt-out strategy that the superintendent mentioned. There's very local successes. San Francisco is now in their 10th year of enrolling every public school kindergartner. So now if you're in 10th grade in the city and county of San Francisco, you've had your account for 10 years. So they've almost got every public school student enrolled. City of St. Louis is in about their 7th year. Stockton and all of Los Angeles County are starting this year and next. So we're pleased to bring this opportunity to the Franklin-McKinley district for what we all hope will be the beginning of a universal program throughout the East Side Alliance first, and then perhaps even San Jose as a whole and the county as a whole. Just some real quick hit on the program features, but each student will have $50 in their account when it's open, provided by the foundation. Then they'll have the opportunity, the families, if they make a deposit of $25, that can be matched for the first 2 years. There'll be an earnings bonus of 5% paid for at least the first 2 years. And there's other incentives that we hope to roll out over time. Super important, we will be offering the parents and children kind of financial literacy training to help them understand these accounts and also learn about 529 accounts and other opportunities. I'm not sure if you're all aware, but the state of California next year is going to put $500 in a 529 account for every low-income student in public school in the state, as defined by your LCFF. And then I just would close by saying that there's been other key partners in this project, including the Silicon Valley Education Foundation, the East Side Education Foundation, and the entire East Side Alliance team. So thank you.
And if I just may add, and this is one of those components, starting early and really bringing to the forefront, this whole College in My Future that will start in kindergarten, that will then culminate with the Spartan Promise through the East Side Alliance, and that every student that graduates with the minimum requirements met, A through G met, have automatic acceptance to San Jose State as part of that East Side Promise. So really understanding the whole continuum and ensuring that we are, again, starting as young as the kindergartners, and then continuing that the mindset of, that college is in their future and it's attainable, and that this is just one component of making that happen. Part of this rollout would be, as we start to enroll the students, we would have a rollout during College Week in October, where we would certainly want to make this announcement to our families and the community at large through various, our social media, or hopefully the media could pick this up as something positive to highlight, but that would be our official kickoff of this initiative. Any questions for the board?
Board members, questions or comments? Board member or Clerk Rodriguez?
I have a comment, then follow up with questions. And the name is John, right? John, I'd like to thank you very much. I think this is a great opportunity for our community, our district, because most are low income, to have seed money to start to save for their college education. And it also encourages all of the young children to go to college. And so I'm total agreement. And I love the financial literacy aspect, because I think it's important that not only the children, but also the parents understand why they're saving money for college and what that money does for them in the future. Because it's hard as, anybody, it's hard regardless of income. It's hard for anybody to imagine that they should start saving as a young child for college. Had I done that when I was young, I probably wouldn't have had to work 4 jobs when I went to college, but I didn't. And unfortunately, and in addition to financial aid, I had to work, which doesn't mean they won't have to work, but they will. They'll have more money to start off college. I do have a few questions about the program, and the way that I read this is everyone is opted in unless they opt out, and they have to sign a form saying that they're opting out. So basically, every student in our district is having $50 deposited into an account that's already set up for them. Starting at kindergarten? Okay. So does this also include students that transfer in later years? And then what if, and I know I may have missed it in the MOU or in the program description, what if the parent or student does not deposit any more money after that? Does it continue to build interest? Does the account stay active, or are there requirements on keeping the account going?
Superintendent, would you like me to take some of those?
Yes.
Let's see. The one area I did want to clarify is we actually have been discussing starting with the first graders, and not the kindergarten class. And the current reason is we know that kinder is optional and first grade is mandatory. So we thought we would pick up more students that way. We do intend to enroll every first grade class on into the future. So we'll catch all those students. And if the community and the team decides we want to go backwards and start with kindergarten, we can also adapt to that. But right now, the structure is first grade forward. The late transfers in can be accepted. What I've emphasized on this program is and you'll see in the documents, we're going to establish a kind of a community board to manage the program. That community board can set and adjust the rules. It's not a program where the Excite Foundation or the credit union is setting all the rules. We've outlined a set of kind of proposed recommendations based on best practices, but we can set and adjust those rules. So that's, I think, a nice feature as we move ahead. As far as your other question, there is no requirement for additional deposits. If it only opens with 50, and that's all that remains in there, it would continue to accrue and stay there. That said, really the trick and the success of these programs is to educate and provide various incentives to encourage families to start making even modest contributions. And then we all work together to create matching programs. The foundation is going to start with matching programs for the first 2 years, but there's all these wonderful opportunities that I've seen in other communities where employers or service clubs or other groups can do fundraisers to create additional matching opportunities for the families. I won't, you don't have the time to hear all the stories that I've heard around the country, but I look forward to sharing them with our committee.
And part of what the committee would work on is other incentives, right? So that we would be able to create deposits for students that, meet certain criteria. If there was a series of meetings that parents and students, attended, that those would be an additional deposit that could be provided. So those would still be worked out. And as part of the MOU that is sort of still highlighted, that those incentives would be worked with the district at that time.
Let me repeat that I am so pleased that this is coming forward. This is absolutely a wonderful program for our students to participate in and families and parents to be educated on the importance of saving money for their children to go to college. So that's no question about that. I just have a few other questions about the program, because I'm so, use the term, I'm so excited that this program is here, that is being provided as an opportunity for our district, because it's something that our district needs to encourage our children to go to college. I know a little bit about 529 accounts, but are these accounts opened as just traditional savings accounts? Or are they automatically 529 accounts? Or do they become a 529 account if there's a minimum deposit reached?
Great questions. So they're not 529 accounts initially. But I will tell you, after their 10th year, which is this year, that the city and county of San Francisco has just incorporated a 529 option into their program, which we're studying now. There are certain advantages to a 529 and certain barriers. This account's designed for no barriers. All the students can have it. We don't need any social security numbers. We don't need information like that might otherwise be a barrier. So the short answer is it's not a 529. I see options for that in the future and educating parents about that in the future. So I hope I answered your question there.
You did. And then I have one more question, because I really am excited about it. What about we have a very high transient population in this area. So what if a student leaves the district and goes, to another area of either the Bay Area or even California? Can they keep that account active?
Yeah, the draft rules that we've put together, what they say is that the funding in that account will continue and can stay active as long as they have put $10 in it. Those students, if they transferred outside of the district, would no longer be eligible for the incentives, the variety of incentives that might come in, but they would not lose the money that had been put aside for them thus far.
And it will continue to accrue interest, right?
Yes, and I do want to say that the credit union, just to be very clear, the credit union is committed to 2 years of a 5% interest payment on these accounts. We would like that to be a long-term commitment, but at this moment, the commitment's for 2 years. Beyond that, it would go back to whatever standard market interest is, which is, as you know, is way, way, way less than 5%.
Yeah, I have to say that 5% interest is incredible because most savings accounts are less than 1.5%.
Yeah, much less, much less.
Yeah, if somebody is saving money in a regular savings account, it's actually working against them. So this is absolutely a great opportunity. Gosh, I wish I was still working because I would love to volunteer and help out with the financial literacy because I have a lot of experience in that with my career that I've retired from. But I think it's absolutely wonderful that Excite is doing this. So thank you so much. All I have.
Thank you.
Clerk Rodriguez. Members, any other questions? Board Member Martinez?
Yes, I would also like to echo the enthusiasm for this. This is a phenomenal opportunity. Just a kind of a question on the weeds and with regards to the MOU. And if I heard you correctly, Mr. Hogan, these accounts are not specifically opened in the name of the students. So are they held in trust?
Yeah, yes, they're held at the accounts in the name of the foundation, with each student then being an individual. There's a master account and each student has an individual slice that's accounted for. And there's a software product that we'll be using that's used nationwide that allows them to see their individual balances. And they're held in insured accounts at the credit union. And I would say one of the reasons that these are not individual savings accounts in the students' names at the credit union, it goes to the experience that the practitioners have had in this space, which is, in order to do that, the family actually has to kind of affirmatively open an account. Those are called opt-in programs. And the experience across the country is families just don't do it. The other experience is then you get into issues with Social Security numbers, eligibility for public benefits and things like that. So these opt-out programs have been very successful. But yes, you're correct in your question. And I think it's a good question, but I do want to let you know this is patterned the same structure that these other communities are using.
So in follow-up to that, when a child reaches maturity for withdrawal, will they at that time have to provide that kind of information?
No, at that time, it essentially comes out, the funding comes out of the foundation. And so it's still not a bank account. So no, they don't have to provide that kind of information.
And I guess my last question is, what kind of reminder are the students going to receive as they kind of head towards that college age? What kind of reminder will they get, if any, that this money is still there? Because I can see, a lot of folks, that's for them, that's a lifetime to them. To us, it was yesterday, right? I mean, for them, 10 years is a lifetime.
That's the fun of this project and this program, right? We want to create a savings culture, a college going culture, and we want to remind these students and their parents continually about this account. So, we envision that they will hear from us every month from first grade to 12th grade, and that they will be encouraged to contribute, encouraged to learn. Obviously, as they're older, they're going to be hearing about FAFSA and other opportunities. But that's the beauty of the program. And I know I go on and on, but the reason that children in these programs go to college at a much higher rate isn't because of the hundreds or the couple $1,000s. It's because people are talking to them about college from a young age. We want to be part of that.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan.
Members, any other questions?
I was just going to say thank you, John, for bringing this program to our district. Confucius said that every long journey starts with one small step. And this is certainly that small step that our kids will be involved in as they move forward to that long journey that will get them to the college door. So again, thank you very much. And I had some questions, but they've been answered. by the other board members that asked them. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have just two quick questions. Thank you again for being here, joining us virtually. So in terms of the parent literacy, is that something that's going to be facilitated through is the district providing that, or is that happening through is the foundation facilitating?
Again, it's a collaborative effort. What we've talked about and kind of what we envision is a couple of things, kind of what we'll call savings days. And we might do one a month or one every other month, but kind of throughout the school year, working with the school about, we know your curriculum is jammed. So, but how can we work these concepts in at certain times through the year? These would probably be more children-focused programs. We work with a program called Sammy Rabbit, who's literally a character that comes with books and songs and things that talk about savings. But setting aside that, when we speak about the parents, the foundation would organize all this, but largely using either credit union employees or volunteers, such as the board trustee who mentioned a few minutes ago, where we're doing, could be Zoom calls, could be, PTA meetings or other opportunities. When I talked about that committee, right, places where your parents are already gathering, if it's appropriate to bring this component, that's what we want to do. And again, this becomes a community movement, right? If another credit union wants to help educate, or employees of another employer want to get involved, that's all in the spirit of the movement.
And then my other question was on, are there any, beyond just college programs, are there any other like non-traditional career programs that these funds would be accessible for?
Yes, definitely. The current write-up talks about, technical training, career, CTE, et cetera. That again is another rule that can be defined and modified by the committee, right? So there's nothing where the law doesn't tell us what the eligibility is. The credit union doesn't decide. The foundation doesn't decide. We as a group will decide. And again, what we've outlined in the basic MOU is sort of what we've seen nationally, but we can adapt that to our community.
Thank you.
And I'll just say the first grade, this first grade class is the kinder class that started their education in distance learning in COVID. And so, it's really important for us to really think about this first grade class as a special class, and what better way to, continue to support that through these measures as we are having this opportunity right now. I'll just say that in talking to John, when we started to finalize all these things, I've pledged the $4,500 that the board graciously approved as part of the bonus from last school year as seed money for the foundation to continue to fundraise, to make sure that we have the available funds to do the matching and the incentive. So I just wanted to, let the public know that those are funds that will be provided for this program.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. Rodriguez.
One real easy question. This might be for you, Juan. Is there any financial, just want to, because it doesn't show there any on the agenda, there's no financial commitment by the district at all.
There are no funds from the district that would be allocated for this program.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, I'll accept the motion on this item.
Move to authorize the administration to finalize the College in My Future program.
Second.
The motion has been made to approve the College in My Future program MOU with Excite Foundation, and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much again, Mr. Hogan, for being here to answer the questions, and we're looking forward to this partnership.
Thanks to all of you, and thank you, Superintendent, for that incredibly generous support. Appreciate it.
We will now go to item 6.02, the enrollment update for 2021. And we have Assistant Superintendent.
Good evening. So I imagine that the information that's going to be presented tonight is not going to be a surprise for the board. So I'm going to go through the information fairly quickly, but of course, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to ask any questions that you have during the presentation. Tonight, we're going to go over trends of enrollment from a state level and a
Jason,
county level.
is it possible, just so we can hear you a little more clearly? It's a
Oh.
little muffled.
Oh, okay. No. Try to take this off. Maybe that might be a little better. Excuse me. So tonight we're going to go over the areas of the state, the county, the district, and our school sites in terms of enrollment and the trends that we're seeing over the last few years, and then next steps in relation to that information. So on this page here, we're looking at the enrollment numbers from the state. This can be found on the CDE website, California Department of Education website, and it looks at enrollment from 2014-15 to last year, 2021. As you can see, over that period of time, we have a 4% decline in enrollment. We also see that there's a big change in the last year from 1920 to 2021. And I don't think this is any surprise for the board, but we're seeing a lot of families that have not come back to school districts based on pandemic fears and concerns, as well as other reasons. Obviously, cost of living in the state of California is very high, much higher than the nation itself. And so families are looking for other places to live that are more affordable for their family and their kids. On this slide here, I presented the information broken out by charter schools and by non-charter schools at a statewide level. As you can see, from 14-15 to year 2021, charters have still continued to grow, but it's at a slower pace. And for the non-charters, traditional school districts, there continues to be a decline. And as you can see, in year 2021, there was a significant increase in that decline, again, for the same reasons I previously mentioned. This slide here looks at the Santa Clara County, the entire county, and looking at the enrollment numbers for 2014-15 to 2021. Again, we see a similar decline, but it's higher than the state level. It's at 8% over the same period of time. And again, for the same reasons that I mentioned earlier. There is the data broken out between charters and non-charters over the same period of time. In this particular slide, you can see that the charter schools within our county are also declining. That's also again due to potentially pandemic fears and concerns, cost of living, also birth rates have a play into these numbers as well. This is a longer trend for Franklin-McKinley School District from 09-10 to 21-22. And in this particular trend, we're looking at a 38% decline over this period of time. If you look at it from 14-15 to now, it's about 30% over that period of time. These are the percentage of change year over year, as well as a cumulative effect for the Franklin-McKinley School District from 2009-10 to 21-22. And for informational purposes, I included here the enrollment numbers by school site, by grade level, just so that you have that information at your fingertips for any future discussions. One of the things that I'd like to point out in terms of trends that we're seeing, we look at various things, especially when we have our demographer looking at our numbers as well. One of the things that we take a look at are TK kinder trends, because there's going to be a correlation as years go on from the number of kids that enroll at your youngest levels, TK and kinder, and how many survive, if you will, part of the cohort that survives over a number of years going up to 8th grade. And as you can see, from 2009-10 to year 21-22, we've had a steady decline in our TK numbers. Hopefully that trend will change and continue to flatten out as the years progress, especially with all of the new initiatives that we're trying to do at our district, as well as the dual immersion, both for Spanish and Vietnamese. We're looking for that to have some significant impacts on this trend that we're seeing. But as we start doing our projections for the future years, it's something that we need to consider. Typically, you don't see a large increase in numbers after you have your numbers established, if you will, at a TK kinder level. We haven't had a trend in which we've had a significant number of students coming into the district after the TK kinder level. So based on past performance, we would use that for future enrollment trends. And obviously the line in orange that I have highlighted there shows you kind of the survival rate, if you will, or the cohort survival factor. This is more at a straight line, very high level. There's a lot more data that goes into this, and that's why we hire demographers to look at the information. But you can see for students who were in TKK for 09-10, if you look at that trend, you can see essentially on a very high level, the survival factor, or as you go out to the eighth grade level. We're looking at essentially, if you look at TK Kinder over those years, 2009-10 to year 21-22, we're looking at a 39% decline. And then if you look at the TK to eighth grade cohort, if you will, it's about a 25% decline from 2009-10 to eighth grade. And then for those who were in 2013-14, the decline was about 29% when they got to eighth grade. We also took a look at charters within our district. They are also seeing a decline, very similar to what we're seeing at the county level, not at the same percentage, if you will, but they are experiencing decline. They're flattening out, if you will. This goes up to year 2021. We also looked at 21-22 as we looked at their budgets to approve, and the number continues to go down. It's going to be about 3,488. This slide here shows our adopted budget numbers compared to CBEDS. CBEDS is the California Basic Educational Data System. It's an annual data collection system that's created by the state. It looks at our fall census data, essentially what our enrollment numbers are in October. This year, the census date is going to be on October 6th. It's usually the first Wednesday of each October. And then districts have a chance to look at the data, make any corrections between October and December. But this is based on historical information that has been maintained by the state of California in terms of FMSD's CBEDS data. And basically, I'm taking our adopted budget numbers and looking at what the CBEDS numbers were in the past years presented. And as you can see, more often than not, we are more favorable in our adopted budget than the actual numbers that show up. So we've tried to tighten that up in the future years. As you can see in year 2021, the difference was very small. If you go back to year 11-12, it was 182. There was a significant decline in year 19-20. Not all of that is related to the pandemic because it was October when that information was pulled. So we're trying to really dive into this number to see what really caused that large decrease that we did not have a foresight on. So that's something that we're going to continue to investigate. And I just wanted to point out, this is not unique to Franklin-McKinley School District. I've been in about 5 different meetings with CBOs and assistant superintendents of business services and other groups, and everyone is seeing this unusual dip in year 19-20, 20-21, and even year 21-22, especially in their TK and kinder grades. And we're all trying to figure out what's going on. Is it birth rates? Is it people moving out of the county or their particular district? Is it charter, so on and so forth? And so I'll have some numbers on that in future slides based on some of the exit interviews that we've conducted as a district with those families who have left our district. On this particular slide, it looks at the demographic information. Just as a point of clarification, demographic numbers prior to 1920 came from a previous demographic company, Davis Demographics. And from 1920 on, it's from Cooperative Strategies, which we contracted with. As you can see, there has been deltas. And as you, if you will, go from year 14-15 to 15-16 to 16-17, you see the delta increases. So what I'm trying to present here to the board is that the longer we wait to do a new demographic study, the more stale the information is, and the more likelihood of it having bigger delta from the demographic study that's projecting the enrollments versus the actual enrollment numbers. So it behooves us and other districts to continue to have those demographic studies redone every few years. And one of my next steps for the board to know about is to have a new demographic study done for Franklin-McKinley School District. Another thing that we look at in terms of the demographic studies is the delta. What's the change year over year, and does that change match what's happening for FMSD? So as you can see, in some of the years, we had a larger difference of 114. In the most recent year, 2021, the delta from year over year between the actual change and the demographic study was fairly close. So we have some, in my opinion, some type of comfort because it's closer. The 1920, again, is one of those unusual years. And so we're trying to work on that piece to dive into it a little bit more. So on this slide, I'm trying to give you two bits of information. One, the last time we had an enrollment projection study performed and presented to the board was in 2019. It went to the board in September of 2019. So the information, again, is getting a little bit older, but essentially both the projections from the demographic report as well as our own information internally shows a downward trend. That trend appears to be continuing to go that way. Again, we are trying to do things to make our enrollment either flatten out or increase, again, with the dual immersion program for both Vietnamese and Spanish, and we hope that will continue to garner interest within our district. Of course, this new program with the, if you will, college savings plan could also be an enticement for families as well, but it will take time for that to really make a dent in our enrollment numbers. The second piece of information that I'm providing on this enrollment projection slide is to show what our current budgeted amount was for enrollment and also the current enrollment numbers as of 9/21/21. We hope that number will decline, or at least the delta between those two numbers will decline between now and the census data as we work with families to make sure that they understand that we have two offerings for them. We have both an in-person instruction program, which we think is the best fit for most of our students, and we also have an independent study program if they have any anxieties or fears or concerns relating to being in person and contracting COVID-19. So in terms of the reasons for declining enrollment, we're seeing it at a state level as well as a county level, and that's something that we're seeing as well for our district in the most recent years. Some of the items that were highlighted in our last enrollment projection study related to lower birth rates impacting future enrollments. Pandemic is a new one that's obviously keeping people out of our schools. Unfortunately, they're not only staying out of school, they're not actually connecting with us for independent study. So some of them are choosing to either do homeschooling or they may be doing something else that they have not informed us on. We also have housing market and cost of living pushing families out. We've got a lot of information in relation to exit interviews. It doesn't match 100% with the numbers that have declined. But for example, to give you some numbers, for year 2021, most of the decline based on the responses that we received, which were 96, most of it related to people moving outside of our district to either another district within our county or out of the state completely. We did the same thing for year 21-22, the year that we're in currently right now. We got 117 responses. Again, 70% of that decline related to people moving outside of our district's boundaries or moving outside of the county to another district for various reasons. Some have moved to Mexico, some have moved to Houston, Texas, some have moved to other countries, Honduras. So it's a mixture in terms of why people are moving out, but people are moving out. And that's the major impact in terms of our enrollment decline. And then charters are impacting us, but to a lesser extent. So for example, in year 2021, we had 10 students leave to go to a charter. 5 of them went to Rocket Ship. And then for this year, 21-22, 13 went to charters. So very small impact in terms of our enrollment numbers declining because of charters within our district boundaries. So in terms of next steps, again, I'm recommending to the district to move forward with an updated demographic study, which we would do in October after the CBEDS results have come through. And then also in terms of next steps, as you know, there's a universal TK program that has been approved by the state, which will now increase the number of students that can participate in the school districts, because kids that are 4 years old can actually be a part of the school curriculum by year 2025, 26 for the expanded universal TK. So that's going to have an impact on our district, more kids, younger kids, making sure that we have enough rooms with bathrooms and so on and so forth. We want to make sure that we get that right. So we're going to try to work through the demographic report to figure out how many of those students are going to be within our district boundaries and how we assess their impact on our facilities. And then also obviously talk about alternatives relating to declining enrollment if we cannot reverse that trend. That's what I have for tonight. In the appendix, there are individual slides to show the enrollment trends by school site. So that is there for your information. So with that, I open it up to any questions or additional
And if I could just add another next step, which is a conversation that the board has engaged in, and this past school year, the decision was made to postpone a process in identifying potentially the consolidation of schools. And so therefore we were scheduled to resume a board discussion around a process for this school year for a possible closure of schools the following year. And so that is one of the other next steps that this board, I would like this board to give me direction in regards to whether to proceed with developing a process for this school year, or postponing that once again and beginning that in the spring for the 22-23 school year.
Board members, any questions or comments?
Yeah, Superintendent, did you want us to respond to your statement in terms of when we are hoping or what our wishes are in terms of the studies?
Yes, I mean, I would. It's not about making a decision, but
Right,
rather
exactly.
trying to get some sense of where the board is at in regards to beginning a process now that would take us through the full year, or a decision to be made in the February timeframe if we wanted to implement such plan for the 22-23 school year. We would have to start now in order for that to happen. If not, a recommendation would be to begin the discussion with the board in the spring, this spring, or a process to be conducted during the 22-23 school year, or an implementation on the 23-24 school year. So those are the sort of the timeframes that I think would be appropriate for the board to sort of give us guidance in regards to how you feel about proceeding.
Well, personally, from one board member, we've gone through such a drastic time this past year, and now our kids are finally settling in, and then we throw out the fact that we're shutting your school down, and I think that's a double whammy, and I think it's a little bit too much. And I would, I know it's a conversation that we have to have, but I don't think this will be the year. Next year would be the year to do bring some drastic changes to this district, if at all possible. I like to have conversation, but postpone any closures, not for next year, but the year after. Anyway, that's my those are my feelings.
Dr. Rodriguez.
And I'd like to piggyback on what George mentioned. Okay, so I looked at the statewide decline enrollment. I don't think, because from what I remember seeing from our latest census, that it showed our state actually increased in population, not by much, but just a little. We did not decrease. So what that tells me is that because we are still in the COVID pandemic, technically, that a lot of, however, but our schools are reopening, a lot of parents have chosen to keep their children home and homeschool them rather than sending them back. Eventually, depending on what happens with the pandemic, we could have a pretty dramatic increase in student enrollment. It all depends on when the pandemic is officially ended. So I think we should hold off on having any discussions until at least after the next year. That way we can settle down and plan for the returning of even some of the students that are probably staying at home right now. Because if we decide to make all these cuts and to have this discussion, people are going to panic and then they're not going to come back. But if we continue with our just grow attitude, with that lack of a better word, and we also market the savings program, college savings program better, and we leverage that, I think a lot of parents might think that, you know what, they're doing better than the schools that I'm sending even the charter schools. And I have a feeling we're going to recover from some of the charter school students we've lost prior to last year. From when they first opened, some of the parents might decide, I think that our traditional schools are actually competing better and actually doing better. So I'd like to have them come back. And of course, we would welcome them back. I would like to see if we could do a study as we look at opening a school on Communications Hill, K through 8, how that would impact Dahl, Franklin, and Chiricahua, so that we can make sure that we're able to monitor the enrollment figures on those 3 schools. I know that those 3 schools have actually experienced a lesser percentage of a drop than some of our other schools, like McKinley and even the middle schools. So I would like to see us do a study on those and how the enrollment would be impacted by our children going to the new school on Communications Hill. In addition, I'm a little curious about why our middle schools are dropping so much more than our elementary schools. So what's happening between K through 6 and then 7 and 8? Where are middle school students going to? Are they going to middle school charter schools? Where are they moving out, or what's happening with those? So I would like to see if we could focus on a more in-depth study on our middle schools. And I absolutely agree with you that we should continue to do demographic studies. We should do another one. I absolutely agree. We need to keep that up to date because a lot has changed since the last one. That was before the pandemic. So, that's a factor right there. So I would like to see if we could continue to do another demographic study. The investment is well worth it. And knowing our market is very important. But I'm an optimist. I mean, there's times to panic and times to be sad. And this is not good, but I think that we can actually, I'd like to see us get over this pandemic first and then see what happens. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Clerk Rodriguez. Any additional? Vice President Tran?
Thank you, Jason. Very informative presentation. So beautiful. Can you go to slide 10 real quick?
Okay. Numbers on my side.
The one next.
This one?
The one with the cohort survival factor.
Okay, here we go.
So how you want us to read this is diagonally, right? So that each one of the diagonal highlighted ones, and if you go down and there's correlation, that's the cohort you want us to kind of.
So yeah, so let me just take you through this. So essentially, there's 2 things I'm looking at here. One, I'm looking at TK and kinder numbers and how that's been trending, because that's usually an indication of how you're going to progress as the kids grow older in future grades.
Right.
So an example of that is looking at 2009-10, you had 1,173 students in TK kinder. Then the next year when they became first graders, it went to 1,147. Then when they became second graders, it went to 1,091. Then when they became third graders, it went to 1,053. This is typical. This is not unique. It is usually typical that you see the numbers decline year over year. unless you're doing something significantly different in a particular grade level that creates a lot of interest and you have a lot of families moving in, or there's something going on in the economy that's forcing families to move from one area to the next. So if you had a fire, which unfortunately happens way too often in California,
Right.
they may be moving from one district to another district that's still up and standing and can actually have students within their walls. So this is a typical thing that you're going to see year over year. Now, this is very high level. It's not going into details by each individual school site, but it just kind of gives you an idea of the trend that you typically will see. So what I'm trying to say here is, I guess, if you look at the 713 for year 21, 22, and you try to project that out, the number is very small.
And you're saying it's like an average of 40% by the time it gets to 8th grade. Okay, great.
No, 40% is for the change between 2009, 10 and 21, 22 for TK Kinder.
Oh,
That's what that 40% is for.
yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the trend from 2009, 10 to when they became 8th graders,
Yeah.
that's 25%.
Can you slide 14 now? Just 4 more slides in this.
This one?
Yes. So on the left-hand side, you have the FMSD budget at 6384 for the school year, but our actual current enrollment is going to be less than that.
Yeah.
204. So how is that going to work when the actual budgeting comes in and we find out?
So one of the saving graces that's within the LCFF formula is that you can take the greater of this year's ADA or last year's ADA. ADA represents average daily attendance, excuse me. So in the years where you're declining, you're going to get funded on last year's ADA, which is relatively close to enrollment. You have about a 95% conversion between enrollment to ADA. So we have a saving grace. We have that 1 year period in which the budget won't really feel the full impact of this decline, but the next year you're going to feel it. So some people describe it as the cliff, if you will. And there's a couple of different things that are adding to the cliff. But yeah, that's usually how that works in terms of budgets and funding related to students.
So that would mean we would be able to use 6611 FPA this year, considering we're at 6180. And if it still holds up to that amount.
If it's 6180, if that holds as our enrollment number, you take 95% of that, and that's going to be our ADA. But they're going to compare that to prior year, and prior year's ADA is going to be higher. So we get funded on prior year's ADA.
So we get funded by whatever the ADA was last year.
Correct.
This is a terrible drop in. They projected about 6456, this demographic. I understand the projections really, but they're still forecasted based on a lot of science. So in this case, 6456 was this projection, and we're actually at 6180. That's pretty grim. And I know this demographic didn't take into consideration the pandemic.
Right. So we know that there's still parents that chose to not enroll their child in TK and kinder as a result of what's going on. So we know and we've heard of that. So that's the sort of the unknown right now of what's going to happen after, hopefully things do pass and they feel, confident in sending their children to school. So that's sort of the big unknown that everybody's sort of having to think about and how to actually build that into our formulas in our projections. So
I get that. So with that being said, I still, in terms of even beginning to talk about alternatives and what we can do, what we can't do at this point, I think we still have that saving grace that we can rely on. Even with the projections being as bad as they are. I mean, not the projections, the actual enrollment being as bad as they are right now, I still think there is a lot of variables at play that we just don't know yet as well. So once we get a better picture of that, then start discussing whatever we need to do to make sure our district remains financially solvent.
Any other comments? Board Member Martinez?
Thank you. Thank you, Jason, for these numbers. And, I think from the bigger question that's being asked by the superintendent, whether we should have this conversation, in the upcoming spring or whether we should postpone it, I hear a little bit of a consensus around the table that this is something that maybe we would prefer to wait and see since we're coming out of the pandemic. I would like to direct my comments to a different issue that would run concurrently with that, which is I would like to see, regardless of whether we have the conversation tomorrow, next year, next spring, or well, I mean, first of all, the math is going to be the math. There's not going to be any level of, desire to postpone it. Like we're going to be coming up on some pretty difficult numbers. I would like to see an all-out, aggressive, ultra-aggressive conversation regarding increasing our enrollment. Right? I'm talking about all across the board, all hands on deck, engaging labor, engaging private, engaging community, not passively, but actively saying, between now and when we have that difficult conversation, we can at least say we've done everything we can to try to increase the numbers the best we can. Because there are some things, and it's up to the demographics, that the demographers to come back to explain, but there are certain things that don't exactly, at least with these high level numbers, don't make sense to me. Number one, when people are moving out because of cost of living, those houses are not empty. Someone takes their place. I'd like to know who, right? And what kind of children are coming in. Number two, there's been new housing developments. I live in one. What are we doing as a district to reach out to these people to say, this is your home. This is where you are going to educate your children. And like I said, not passively, but actively. God willing, in the next few days, I'm hearing days, not necessarily weeks, we're going to get good news about children 5 and older being eligible for a shot, right? That hopefully will alleviate some of the trepidation that families have about enrollment. And it's not just a obviously public safety comes first, right? We want public safety to be a top priority, but that's also hand in hand with what I'm describing as an aggressive, across the board, active enrollment campaign. Tell folks, look, it's safe, bring your kids here, we want you here. We're doing a lot of good things. I don't think it's an issue of us not doing good things. It's an issue of delivering that message. I can speak for myself. I volunteer to whoever will listen to be that messenger. I will walk streets. I will knock on doors. I'm asking superintendent, please, I'm not waiting, this is not something that I'm saying is just for the sake of saying it into a microphone. I really do believe that we are doing things better than other folks, whoever they may be, private schools, charter schools, whatever. Let's sing those praises. Let's get labor to sing those praises. Let's get parents to sing those praises. Because when we come to these hard decisions, right? I don't want to say, man, we just left 6 months on the table. We just left 8 months on the table and time went by and we coulda, shoulda, woulda. Because at the end of the day, when that day of reckoning comes, we're going to have those conversations. And I'd like to at least sleep well at night knowing that we rolled out the red carpet for everybody who deserves a high quality education right here in Franklin-McKinley, right? That's what we're looking for. And that's, at least from my point of view, I can't do anything about the cost of living. I can't do anything about the math. I can't do anything about some of the stuff that's being talked about here, but I can invite people. I can welcome people. I can spread the word. And like I said, I put that on myself to whatever we can do, but I also ask that this is coordinated at our level to say, what is it that we're doing that's actively trying to pump up these numbers as best we can? Because like I said, there are new houses, there are people moving in, the demographics are different, but they belong in our chairs, not someone else's.
Thank you, Board Member Martinez. So I agree with my colleagues on the board here. I think there's a lot of factors going on right now in terms of the insecurity. Our staff are under a lot of pressure with the return to school. I don't want to add to that. And I think, we have a task to do between now and whenever the time comes, just budget wise, that we need to make difficult decisions. The one thing that I will add to the conversation with is I don't want any of our staff to be blindsided by this decision. I want to make sure that the process leading up to this decision is very transparent, that we are soliciting input from all our stakeholders, and I mean all of our stakeholders, right? All of our school sites, all of our parents, our community members, right? To really provide us with the input so that we are making a decision that truly represents our district. So I would like for that process, even if it is, an extra year out, that we're able to, fortunately budget wise postpone. I do want to make sure we start that conversation, even if it's just a, fact finding and gathering the data together, for us to start looking at that so that it's not a last minute decision. It's not a hurried decision. It's a decision that even though it's difficult, everyone can say that they, had input and knew what was happening throughout that process. In terms of your other items, Jason, I know you wanted direction on. Did we get to all of those?
I think we did. I think,
Okay.
the first one was demographic study. And I think I heard a resounding yes, continue to do that. The next one really relates to assessing the impact of universal TK. I'm going to try to bring a contract to the board later on this year in reference to that, where we're going to work with some consultants to help us with this. But the first part is getting that demographic study done, and then the alternatives talks about discussion on schools and what we do with those. So, yep.
Well, thank you very much again for all of your work putting this together for us and helping facilitate these conversations.
Welcome.
All right, we will now go to item 7, consent items under 25,000. And this goes for items 7 and 8. Members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with board bylaws 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. Are there any public comments on any of the consent items? Right, board members, are there any items from consent, either 7 or 8, that you would like to pull? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion for consent items under 25,000.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 7.01 through item 7.05.
Second.
Items 7.01 through item 7.05 have been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We will go to item 8, consent items over 25,000. I'll accept a motion when we're ready.
Move to approve items, consent items 8.01 to 8.06.
Second.
Items 8.01 through 8.06 have been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We will go to item 9, action items. Item 9.01, the personnel report.
Madam President, I move that the personnel report be approved as submitted and that A, the retirement for the following employees be approved. Feng Pham, food service assistant at Kennedy, effective 10/1/21. B, the employment for the following employees be approved. Shun Kun, custodian at Stonegate/Dahl, effective 9/27/21. Yolanda Gonzalez, noon duty at Dahl, effective 9/27/21. And C, the resignation for the following employees be approved. Jesse Cuevas, educator at Los Arbores, effective 10/29/21. Carla Posadas, secretary at Ramblewood, effective 10/1/21.
Second.
All right, the personnel report and addendum have been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That motion passes unanimously. We will go to item 9.02, the September 14th board meeting minutes. Board members, hopefully you've had a chance to review those minutes, and I will accept the motion when you are ready.
Move to approve the September 14th board meeting minutes.
Second.
Item 9.02 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We will go to item 9.03, reporting on delegating authority to take the necessary action to protect students and staff from the spread of coronavirus. Superintendent Cruz.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to provide a board a quick update in regards to our independent study program. I know that the board has gotten some questions in regards to the process and the timeliness of how we've been able to support families through the independent study mandate. So I'll just take you back to July 15th when the state passed AB 130, which in essence mandated districts to provide independent study to any family that basically asked for it. Back in June, we were prepared for us to be able to provide some level of independent study, but not necessarily in the way that AB 130 sort of changed the landscape for everybody. So at that time, we had one teacher that had been identified as the independent study teacher, and potentially we had posted and potentially hiring a second one at that time, anticipating a handful of students that we would be able to provide independent study. So on July 15th, that changed. We immediately began to notify families of this option and ask for them to provide us some insight in regards to whether that was an option that they were going to seek for their children. And so we sort of put a soft deadline of July 23rd for them to respond to a survey in regards to their interest in independent study. We had to make sure that families understood the difference between independent study and distance learning. We wanted to make sure that they understood the difference, so as they started to make those decisions, that they understood the difference and were comfortable with the options that we were going to be providing. In addition to that, we wanted to make sure that the families understood that when they made that decision, they were going to be disenrolled from their school and into independent study, and that there would be no guarantees that the families would have that spot in the event that they wanted to go back to in person. That was a critical piece of information that we needed to make sure that families understood, because the law also requires that within 5 days of being notified that they want to go back to in person, we have 5 days in which to make sure that they are placed in an in-person setting. And so by the time school started, we had about 175 students that were now confirmed and enrolled in independent study with 5 of our teachers. We were able to identify additional teachers within our teaching ranks that some of them had asked for an independent study setting because they were concerned about their safety as well in returning to in-person. And our enrollment was such that we were able to consolidate classes before school started, release them, and have them ready to engage our 175 students that had already been identified and enrolled in independent study by the first day of school on August 17th. That Friday before, we distributed, with the help of IT, devices and hotspots from this boardroom in anticipation of the first day of school. Since then, we've had a number of students added to independent study, and some that actually have returned back to in-person. So on average, we've been having about 230 students in independent study. As a result of that, we had to add additional teachers. We had to add an additional 2 teachers within the first couple of weeks as more and more students started to enroll. So we added 2 teachers to independent study, again, consolidating school classes one school has started, which is, I understand, very disruptive, but necessary for us to be able to meet our obligations for independent study and other students. We are in the process of adding an additional teacher at this time. We will end up with 9 teachers. Hopefully, the candidate will be processed within the next couple of days, and we will be ensuring that we have every teacher now in independent study only responsible for 1 grade level and an average class size of caseload of 20 students. We anticipate being able to have a back to school night soon to make sure that the families have an opportunity, as they have in person, to ask questions, get information, and then meet individually with their teachers, especially since we have another transition of adding another teacher. I met with the ISP teachers today as well, and we agreed to have them do teacher-parent conferences, just like if they were in person. We want to maintain that level of connection with our families, even though they are choosing to be remotely. Since the start of school, we also ensured that we had supplies available for students. We asked the teachers to give us a list of supplies above and beyond just the basic supplies to make sure that the students had it at home for the activities that the teachers were going to engage with them. We have also continued to give devices and hotspots as more students have been added throughout the last couple of weeks. Ingenuity has been up and running now for 2 weeks. That is the online platform where students are conducting all their work and teachers grading their work. That took some time to be able to get the contract and just the logistics of the platform to be able to train the staff and be able to provide access to the students. But even though the Ingenuity software online platform was not available from day one, teachers were providing daily instruction and work since day one, in addition to the synchronous instruction that they were providing. Moving forward, we are making sure that we are complying with the law in education code as it pertains to the attendance accounting. Jason will make sure that he always makes sure that we are accounting appropriately for the ADA that he just talked about, and that the auditors are going to be able to find that our accounting purpose, the way that we accounted for attendance and the way we documented attendance in independent study is in compliance with the law, and make sure that the district is in compliance and does not have any adverse effects in terms of our ADA. We will be working with teachers to make sure that that accounting is done properly. We meet with the teachers weekly to make sure that they're updated in the type of information that we need them to convey with families as well. We want to make sure that our families, again, stay connected with us as much as we can. We know that some of the families are simply waiting for their children to be vaccinated. They've told us so, and they all want to go back to in person. I will make sure that those transitions are done as smoothly as we can. And at times, we may have to then have our independent study teachers return to teaching in person to accommodate the number of students that will eventually go back to in person. Part of what we're trying to do is making sure that the students that are independent study not only stay connected, but they're making progress. If their students are not attending their synchronous, and if the students are not producing the work that is being assigned, then there's a requirement of re-engagement. There's a requirement for us to talk to the parents and determine whether the independent study is the appropriate placement for the student. And so those decisions will be made individually with by consulting with families. At this time, most of the families that have returned voluntarily because they find it difficult for their children to do the work independently. And also because they see how we are doing everything we can to provide a safe environment as well. I know that they hear that through their classmates, they hear that through their neighbors, And certainly, even though we can say that there's 45 positive cases in September, but we can say that that's relatively low. I'm saying that is what we want, but it's relatively low considering the number of students that we have in person. And we will continue to work to ensure that the safety measures that we've put in place are followed, are consistent, are applied consistent, and that we are keeping everybody safe. So I'm going to stop there for a second and then ask for any questions from the board. But then I want to be able to follow up with a discussion with the board in terms of our transition of our board meetings to allow the public to come in person to provide comment.
Board members, any questions on the COVID reporting?
Yeah. So some of the parents that were in independent study are bringing the students back because they hear that what we're doing. I think there was one question that was asked, if we do testing, which we're really not doing testing, we're doing it periodically, but not every day. So if we're doing testing, how long does it take to get the test results back?
So we are doing testing daily here from the district office. It's daily from 8 to 12, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays 3 to 5. And so we are providing that testing for any family, any employee that is a close contact. And so that usually takes 2 to 3 days, even though this past week it was a little bit more challenging. They had a lot of backlog, and so it took a while. But usually it's about 2 to 3 days when the tests come back. We are also doing testing for our 4th through 8, which is a pool testing, which is a little different, and that's done at the schools. And we're going to be working with the school sites to make sure that there's greater participation because parents have to actually give consent to be tested. But that's one of the measures that we took in order to expedite the testing of close contacts to see if we can shorten the quarantine time from 10 to 7 days.
And then I have one more question. Now that the booster shots have been approved for schools, for staff and teachers, for those who had Pfizer, are we starting to get our teachers and anyone who wants to get a booster shot able to schedule them? Because I know that they're giving them at the county fairgrounds for Pfizer.
So we're making that information available. Actually, I just saw an email from Kennedy. They have a vaccination clinic coming up, and they are going to be prepared to do boosters for those that are eligible and want them. We provide the information. We are not in a position to require or to sort of do any of that for our staff, but we are certainly going to make all that information available just like we did initially for those that are seeking that booster shot.
And did you have a follow-up that you?
Yeah, so if there are no further questions, I do want to engage the board. I know that we talked about it briefly at the board retreat. There's no requirement that we stay completely virtual. There is an option for us to continue in this format and not allow public to come in person by meeting various conditions under the law that the governor just signed. And so my ask of the board is I want to get some direction or some consensus around should we now go back to allowing public to come into our board meetings following safety protocols and then live streaming our meetings like we have over the YouTube channel, but only allowing public comment in person or by submitted in writing that we would read into the record? Or is there any other format that the board would like to administration to consider in terms of how we set up board meetings moving forward? This is not a decision-making, agenda item. I just, it doesn't require board action. I just want to make sure that I hear from the board in terms of your direction that you want to give us in terms of how to, proceed with setting up our board meetings.
Well, personally, I would like for us to continue, our meetings here as we've been doing. And I wouldn't mind the public coming in as long as safety protocols are in place. And that means space the chairs apart accordingly, based on 6 to 8 feet. And then also, of course, everyone has to be wearing a mask when they come in. So that would be my 2 cents on this issue.
Any other input?
I would also support that. I know that, in terms of the law, that if we were to go virtually, we would have to actually make findings, which would, for what it's worth, require us to say that there's a danger or some sort of imminent risk to the board or to that public, which is somewhat inconsistent with what we're saying to the students, right? We're saying you can go to school, but you can't come into this room. It's bizarre as to how the law is written. So, in setting aside the law, I echo Trustee Sanchez's sentiments, which is, we're moving forward, and I personally I think I trust our community trusts us. We've enjoyed a good amount of success in following protocol. If people are not able to deal with that, we have mechanisms to address that, in terms of, making sure folks respect the mask and whatever else is required to preserve public health.
Rodriguez.
Yeah, I'm also comfortable with that. I just want us to be prepared because I know other school districts have had incidents where people don't want to wear a mask. So I think we just need to be prepared for that. I doubt if we have that issue here because our area, this community, or the city of San Jose, or the Bay Area, we're one of the best in the entire nation, or we are the best in the entire nation in terms of cases and what we're doing to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. I also am wondering, doesn't the city have a ordinance regarding number of people allowed in a setting being required to be vaccinated or something? Isn't there are we okay with that? Was that?
Yeah, there's, if you're a city-owned venue where you are gathering in large gatherings, that's when you are required to provide proof of vaccination.
Okay, so then, given that, I would be very surprised if we had 10 people come in. We'll probably be okay, as long as everyone wears masks and we provide hand sanitizer and so forth. What we're doing normally in the schools. So I'm fine with it.
And I agree. I do like having the live stream available because I do think that helps get the information out and makes our board meetings more accessible to our community and constituents. And as long as they have, sounds like at least 2 ways to provide the public comments, either in written format prior to the meeting so that they can be read into the record, or joining us in person following those protocols. I think those are reasonable ways for us to facilitate our meetings.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that I was moving forward in the way that the board feels the most comfortable at this point. And I do, Trustee Martinez is correct that we would have to make findings of such that it would be contradictory to what we're saying that is appropriate at our schools. And so that's, one of the reasons why I think that it's most appropriate for us to move forward with opening access to our meetings. And we are getting greater viewership on our YouTube channel than we normally would get when we had people come into our meeting. So I think that is something that, as a result of the pandemic would be something positive that it pushed us in that direction, and we will continue to do that because it is about access.
All right, so we will now go on. Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. We will now go on to item 9.04, the amendment to Resolution 2021-32, recognizing the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples' Day. And I know Board Member Rodriguez had shared some feedback, which was incorporated in the resolution to make sure that we accurately educate and provide teaching opportunities for students that capture the actual histories and what took place pertaining to Indigenous people.
And I read the amendment, and it's exactly what I was thinking. So I'm very comfortable with it.
Thank you, Clerk Rodriguez. Any other questions or comments on this item? Otherwise, I will accept the motion.
So I move to adopt the amendment to resolution number 2021-32, recognizing the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples' Day.
Right, the motion has been made on item 9.04 and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 9.05, Resolution 2021-33 in support of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ plus History Month. So this is one of our annual resolutions that we bring forward as a validating and reaffirming that our district is committed to a safe and inclusive learning environment for all students, and also our commitment in recognizing and continuing to have our students learn about the history of discrimination and inequity that our LGBTQ community has faced and continue to face, and also celebrating the positive contributions that LGBTQ community has made. And so I know resources are typically also shared out in the staff bulletin. So look forward to seeing that also be circulated. Board members, are there any questions or comments on this item?
I want to say that we're proud that we raised the pride flag here in our district. And I don't know how many other districts do that, but we definitely do. And again, a source of pride for us as a district.
Yeah, and I just will also add that, as a district, we've, even though it's part of the law, but we've been really proactive in ensuring that there's gender neutral restrooms and that there's, especially in our elementary, where there are normally not single stall restrooms available within what the students use, that there is an identified single use restroom that students know that is a restroom that they can use, that usually is in the office, and that staff understand that a student may come in and ask to use the restroom, and that is okay. And so we've really tried to make sure that we're not just complying with the law, but that we are ensuring that students have that accessible to them as they need.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. If there are no other comments, I'll go ahead and move that we approve item 9.05, Resolution 2021-33 in support of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ plus History Month.
I'd like to move forward for approval of item 9.05.
What do you mean? You just
Oh, I'm
Would you
sorry.
like to second the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So the motion has been made to approve item 9.05 and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 9.06, Resolution 2021-34, Disability Awareness Month. And this is also another annual resolution that we take a moment to recognize October as Learning Disability Awareness Month, which also encourages our sites to engage in this opportunity for students. Although it may look a little different this year, especially with our students gathering in larger numbers, but taking the opportunity to have students understand that all of us come in many different shapes, forms, talents, interests, and needs, and that's okay, and that should be celebrated. And so this is an opportunity to recognize that and to build awareness for that, so that our communities and schools do continue to be safe and inclusive and welcoming, and that students should all feel a sense of belonging in our schools. Yeah, are there any questions or comments on this item? I know we've also had in the past, Special Olympics and other activities, and so I'm hoping at some point we'll be able to get back to those, and they might look a little different this year again, but I know there's been a lot of great efforts on this.
Madam President, I'd like to move that we approve item 9.06, resolution 2021-34 in proud recognition of Disability Awareness Month.
Right, the motion has been made to approve the resolution for Disability Awareness Month and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes unanimously. We will go to item 9.07, assist in identifying a candidate for Santa Clara County Committee. Superintendent Cruz, do you want to go over the criteria for this?
And previously, this board had identified Carrie Rosado as the representative for Franklin-McKinley, and she's no longer with us and this board. So we asked that the board select a new board member to represent Franklin-McKinley on this committee.
Juan, do you have an idea in terms of the meetings and so on? I mean, how many meetings are there and when do they take place? The purpose of this committee?
I do not have the frequency, but each committee, the committee is comprised of different for different supervisor districts, and so we have a vacancy there, as you can see. I do not know what their frequency of meetings is. I can find out. But that the letter came from the county office in regards to this being agendized and potentially selecting a board member. There's no requirement for the board to actually have somebody, but there is, again, Carrie Rosado was selected, and the board can have somebody.
Are any board member interested in this?
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
So this seat that represents our district are representing the county election, the committee election for the election of the 3 seats that are up for election, 1, 3, and 5 supervisor districts, right? So it's not necessarily they're on a district organization committee, they're just on the election committee that votes for the 3 open seats that are coming up, right?
No, they do serve on this committee, and there's a total of 11 seats, and so they are currently open for that. In each district, supervisory district has districts that belong to that, and therefore those are the ones that are eligible for seats in that supervisory district. So if you look at,
so some are elected, some are appointed.
they're elected officials that can serve on this committee that the board can. So you are not placing them. You would make a recommendation of a board member from this district to serve on that. So it's not a direct appointment. So you would be making a nomination of one of you to say that you would want to consider to be one of the seats in district
1, 3, and 5.
3,
Yeah, it's
district 3.
identifying the qualified candidates.
Oh, actually, district 1. We're in district 1.
We're in district 1?
Yep.
For the purposes of
this
this, the way that they organize it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on district 1, Mike Wasserman's county supervisor. So you're not actually appointing somebody to represent the district in that committee, but you would be recommending a representative of Franklin-McKinley that belongs to District 1 as one of potential candidates to fill the seats that are vacant in that district. A little bit of a.
So going back to the
But there's a
original
total of
question, is there
11
anyone
seats.
interested in the role? Any board member interested?
I'd like to nominate George, but if he doesn't want to, I'll volunteer.
Yeah.
Or-
George,
yeah.
is that it?
Or is there
No?
somebody else who might want to be? I'm on a couple of committees and commissions. Oh my God.
John, do you want to do it?
No, I
Todd?
do not want to do it.
Ben?
If there, I'm actually truly ignorant of what our assignments are. I don't
That's
know.
good.
I know that there were assignments and I should probably follow up with the superintendent on
Well, I think
where
one
our
of their,
assignments are going.
I
So
think one of
know-
their duties is to determine district boundaries.
Yes.
And Communications Hill is one of the areas that we want to
That's right.
protect. So I would really encourage you, because
Sign me
I
up.
know that other districts have wanted to raid Communications Hill. I don't want to say it that way, but I know that other districts have tried to realign the district to take away that area of our district, and I don't think we should. I think you would be a perfect candidate for it.
I will gladly accept that responsibility. on
Yes,
behalf of the
it's
board if that's the
primarily
wishes.
for district organizations and boundaries.
I'm sorry, say it again?
It is primarily for what board clerk just
District
indicated.
boundaries.
District boundaries, understood.
We need to protect our
Yeah.
boundaries.
Then since you took over Carrie's position, it would take on one of her other responsibilities she had.
And so this would be in contention with other school districts, like we'd be wrestling with them over boundaries?
Not necessarily,
No.
we would be discussing, yeah.
Discuss.
No,
It's
the
a
reason I
nice
bring-
way of saying that with the other districts listed under Supervisor District 1.
do we have to make a decision today?
No,
The deadline on here.
deadline
is-
is,
November 19th.
November
well,
19th.
that's the election will be on November 19th to fill the 3 seats.
Candidates have to submit
But we have,
October 29th.
which we would have another board meeting right before that.
May I say a tentative yes, only because with my line of work, I want to make sure that there's no potential conflicts, because then I would be wrestling with my clients. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So would you like this item to be brought back?
Yes,
on
please.
October
I'd like
while
to
we
talk.
clarify
Yeah, I'd
the
like to
dates?
clarify.
And I'll find out the frequency of the meetings and make sure that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into.
So we'll make a contingent that there is no conflict of interest.
Yeah, it's mostly for just my line of work.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to make people mad.
Are we going to table this item for now? So we will go on to item 9.08, the Sunshine Proposal between CSEA and the Franklin-McKinley School District, proposal by CSEA. Board members, any questions? I'll accept a motion on this item.
Move to approve action item 9.08.
Second.
Item 9.08 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We'll go to item 9.09, the Sunshine Proposal between the Franklin-McKinley School District and CSEA, proposal by the district. Any questions, board members? I'll accept a motion on this item when we're ready.
Move to accept the sunshine proposal by the district for CSEA.
Second.
All those in favor of, or the motion has been made for item 9.09 and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 9.10, the sub-teacher rate increase for daily and long-term.
Currently experiencing shortage in our county. In order to encourage substitute assignments with speed and remain competitive with neighboring districts, we are proposing increasing both daily and long-term substitute rates effective September 29, 2021. Our current daily rate is $160. The proposed daily rate would be the current long-term rate is $175. The proposed long-term rate, $200. Recommended that the Board of Education approve the request to increase both daily and long-term substitute rates effective September 29.
Members, are there any questions or comments on this item? I fully support this. I think we need to do whatever we can to attract and retain our subs. We know just the impact that that has even on our students when those vacancies aren't filled, even in the short term. So,
Move to approve action item 9.10, sub-teacher rate increase, both daily and long-term.
Second.
item 9.10 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We'll go to item, thank you, Annette. Item 9.11, the Assistant Superintendent contract for Amy Black.
Following contract for Amy Black, Assistant Superintendent of Education Services is recommended that the Board of Education approve the attached contract.
Board members, are there any questions or comments regarding this item? Otherwise, I will.
It will be starting October 1st.
I'd like to make a motion, item 9.011, to approve the assistant superintendent contract for Amy Black.
Second.
Item 9.11 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We'll go to item 9.12, the 2021-2022 Superintendent Annual Goals. Superintendent Cruz, would you like to?
Yes,
review this?
thank you. I bring forward the goals that the board and I discussed at the board retreat. And so you can see the three different goals that are part of my evaluation for the 21-22 school year, and in alignment with the district goals as well, as they are tied to our LCAP and many of our major initiatives within the district. If the board can make sure that that I included everything that we had discussed, and I ask for your approval.
Any questions on this item? Comments? As I'll accept a motion when we're ready.
Move to approve the 2021-2022 superintendent annual goals.
Second.
Item 9.12 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that motion passes 4 with 1. We will go to item 10, communication from the superintendent. Superintendent Cruz.
Yes, thank you. I just want to report out that I've had the pleasure to spend a couple of days as the substitute principal over at Windmill Springs. It has been truly a pleasure being able to be back on the campus and really get to work with our staff, work with our students, in that capacity and working with our parents. And I can tell you that the first day I was really tired, as it was one of the hotter days that we had. And just being out with the students at recess and lunch, and at one point, try to play a little bit of basketball with a couple of students. Realized that I wasn't wearing the appropriate shoes for that. But just a real pleasure for me to be able to be out there and working with our teachers and our students and our families. So I am glad that I'll be back in the office tomorrow, as our principal will be back on campus. Also had the opportunity with Jason and the other EduCare board members to have a retreat this past weekend, and just excited of that initiative to continue to move forward, as EduCare is at the heart of our community that has a tremendous opportunity and support as a result of the work that this board and the investment that this board have made in working with Packard and working with First Five in ensuring that EduCare would be built and operating out of the Santee neighborhood. And so continue to be really impressed with the work that is being done there and the support that our families have access to, not just through the EduCare preschool center, but also through the family resource center that is in the front part of the building. And so continue to be part of that work. And so at one point later on in the year, I will be asking EduCare to come in and give a presentation along with Catholic Charities and the FRC, just because it's amazing the work that they've been able to do during the pandemic and supporting our families with food, with diapers, with formula. And moving forward, they're going to become a beacon supporting all families, especially those that are finding themselves within the foster care system. And so excited about sort of that next phase of the support that is going to be provided out of that center. No other items to report.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. We'll now go on to item 11, communications from the Board of Education. Item 11.01, board member reports. We'll start with Board Member Martinez.
Nothing to report other than just saying that I look forward to a good upcoming discussion regarding the enrollment.
Thank you, Board Member Martinez. Vice President Tran?
No report.
Clerk Rodriguez?
Well, I actually do have a report this time. Last Friday, I had the opportunity at the request of a parent to visit the drop-off period for Franklin School because they were concerned about some traffic challenges. And there weren't any traffic challenges that day, and I think there were several reasons why. But apparently what happens is because of our requirements to bring the students in with the COVID, scanning their QR codes and so forth, that the traffic would, in front of Franklin, that new traffic light on 10th Street would back up at the turn on Tully Road when it turns into the parking lot. It would back up because they wouldn't have enough people scanning the barcodes, or not the barcodes, the QR codes. So it would back up, and then that traffic would actually block the eastbound traffic on Tully. So it would create a lot of honks and people would get mad. But it didn't back up that morning, but I was imagining that it would because of that issue. And there were several reasons why it didn't back up. One of which we had extra people there because Superintendent Cruz is helping out, which was a good thing. It's good because it just went a lot smoother with just one other person there, which is one of the reasons why he made a decision to offer more time for our noon duty staff to work that morning to help with the scanning. but it was very well organized, and everybody was cooperating. I didn't see any issues. I did see some people speeding in the parking lot as they were coming down the frontage road, because there's two different roads going in the parking lot. And so I made a recommendation to Superintendent Cruz regarding possibly adding some speed bumps so that some of the cars don't speed around the corner and possibly cause an accident. Most likely with another car, but there could be pedestrians walking across as well. So I did notice that, me being the traffic board member, I did make some recommendations based on that so that we could prevent any accidents in the future. Other than that, when we redesigned Franklin School and added that other parking lot, that was probably one of the best design decisions that we made for that school, because the other parking lot is completely, there's no issues. So I think it went very well, and I'm really proud of our modernization of Franklin School because of that.
Thank you. Rodriguez. Board Member Sanchez.
Oh, just a couple of quick things. I did attend the Santa Clara County School Boards Association meeting for this month of September. And the main thing was that there were 3 superintendents who were kind of giving the highlights of their programs regarding COVID and what was going on. And anyway, one of them was Dr. Stella Kemp, that we know a little bit, right? Our former Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. Stella gave a nice update in terms of what was happening over there in Santa Clara Unified, where she's the superintendent. So that was interesting, and that was pretty much you took up the most of the meeting. It's a virtual meeting, so we're still not meeting in person. I don't know when that's going to happen, if it will this year. Anyway, but there's some good news. There's a fall dinner coming on October 27th, and that will be in person. So we're going to have an in-person meeting, and there's going to be a speaker and all that, so on. So they're going to come out with the details, but that should be coming out very soon. So Sandy should be getting some information regarding that dinner. And so anyway, something to put on your calendar, and usually those start around 6 p.m. In the afternoon. And so I'll check with Sandy, or Superintendent can check with Sandy to see if she's gotten the information and where it's going to be and so on. I think it's going to be at Michael's once more, from my understanding, over there in the shoreline there, Mountain View. So anyway, that's my report.
Thank you, Board Member Sanchez. And for my report, I just want to share I was able to attend the CDAC meeting last week, or was it the week before? Right after our last board meeting. And then I also did submit the letter on behalf of our board, which we approved at the last meeting. And I'm very excited to share with everyone that the proposal to ban flavored tobacco products was unanimously approved by the San Jose City Council just hours ago, which is, hopefully a really positive step in the right direction for protecting our children in our community. So thank you for the board and superintendent and staff, everyone who supported that initiative as well. And also just wanted to thank Superintendent Cruz for his contribution to kickstart the College in My Future program. And that means a lot. And I know our community and our students are really going to benefit from this program, this innovative program. So thank you, Superintendent Cruz. We will now go on to item 11.02, the agenda item requests. Board members, are there any additional requests or revisions to that list of items? We will go on to 12, future business. There is no future business at this time. We'll go to item 13, future meeting dates. Item 13.01, the October 26th board meeting, which will be at 8 p.m. There will also be a parent meeting. And is this going to be our first in person, or are we doing virtual?
So I was going to wait for another week and see how the rates, they've been coming down. I was going to wait another week and make that determination before the fall break, and then make an announcement whether it will be in person or virtual.
Okay, so we will get that information out to the Kennedy community soon.
Correct.
In terms of whether that parent meeting will be virtual or in person. But regardless, we'll be resuming our meetings specifically for specific school sites, which is also exciting.
Is it possible to hold both, virtual and in person? Or is it feasible, not feasible?
If it was here, I would say yes, because we're set up with the camera and all that, and at the school site, it may not be possible.
Okay.
But certainly this will be our first specific at a school with only parents from that school, whether it's virtual or in person. I'm feeling confident that we may be able to do it in person simply because of the trend that we're seeing come down, and knowing that we can socially distance in the cafeteria and those kinds of things. So I'm feeling really comfortable with that, but I just wanted to give it another week just so that we don't, end up having to pull back at the last minute.
And then our next item is 13.02, the November 9th board meeting at 8 p.m. Again, there will be a parent meeting. This one will be focused at Stonegate School, which will be at 6:30. Then we have the subsequent board meeting, item 13.03, the December 14th meeting, December 14th board meeting. We will go to item 14, closed session, which we are not returning to closed session at this time. And so we are at item 15, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Right, the motion has been made to adjourn and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes unanimously.